Hello everyone, and welcome to a quick chat about RFPs and why you should be paying attention to them. RFPs are kind of like the dirty laundry of the industry, of all industries actually. RFPs stands for Request for Proposals, and is a way for people and for businesses and government agencies and nonprofit agencies and for-profit companies to solicit competitive bids for anything from picking up and buying bulk steel to getting web design, web development services, marketing services, advertising services, and you know what else. The way they do it is by issuing a request for proposal. A request for proposal is nothing more than a document illustrating exactly what their requirements are and what their needs are. They usually put that out to a limited or a public bid list, and they invite people to submit their bids and specifications and quotes for the products and services that are being requested. Oftentimes, salespeople hate this, mainly because it gets into a large bidding war, that you are suddenly having to compete with lots of other people for that pricing and for that project. Oftentimes that can turn into 100 people bidding on the same project, or it can turn into nobody bidding on that project. One of the things we run into is with a lot of small organizations and small government agencies is that they do a really bad job of publicizing their RFPs, and as such they don't get anyone bidding on the project. So what started as the noble idea of getting competitive bids turns into only one or maybe two people bidding on the project. And if you're the person that is one or two people bidding on the project, seems like you would be a shoo-in, right? A while back, there was a RFP issued by the city of Austin, Texas for a website overhaul. They put it out. It went out to about 100 companies nationwide, including something like 50 in the state of Texas. And everyone kind of laughed it off and said, yeah, I'm not going to bid on this project. It's going to be a crapshoot. Well, it turns out that only 3 companies bid on that project. And the project submissions ranged from $600,000 to $1.2 million out of those 3 submissions. And of that, only one bid conform to the requirements set forth in the proposal, in the request for proposal. That one company won the project for $1.1 million. So talk about a win just for showing up. And that's often what happens with a lot of RFPs. You can either get into a bidding war with 100 people, or at the same time you could be the only person who showed up and you win by default. So then it becomes a question for you of, how do you identify the projects that you should be spending the time submitting a proposal to? Because let's be honest, submitting a proposal to one of these things can either be as quick as 1 hour to fill out a bid sheet if you're looking for bulk steel, and I'm picking on Michael Bennett, or it could be something much more grandiose where you're having to put in 50, 100, 200 hours to write a fully compliant proposal. And this is something that I talk with RFP issuers about, is because sometimes they go a little bit overboard in the information they're requesting, and making it so that the bidders have to put in a lot of non-billable time and effort in order to have a chance at winning the project. So this is something my company does, is we actually work with issuers and trying to figure out exactly what it is that they need before they're issuing a RFP that requires 100 people to be putting in 200 hours of non-billable work, and then they get 100 proposals that are each 100 pages, and someone actually has to read those proposals. So keep that in mind also. So one of the things that we talk about doing with a lot of for-profit companies who are bidding on these is to create a go, no-go strategy sheet. Basically a way for you to be able to identify the types of projects that you should be bidding on, not because they're lucrative, but because you might have a good chance of being a finalist or win the project. So my thing is, I don't want to submit a proposal or waste time submitting a proposal to, unless I believe that I am a shoo-in for this project or have a good chance of at least being a finalist, if not the winner. Because if I'm not going to be a finalist or the winner, why do I want to be just spreadsheet fodder? So the way I do this is I go through these RFPs that I receive, because I receive a few a week, and I submit one a week at least. And I look at it and go, okay, well, how am I going to be able to identify myself amongst a crowded field of 100 professionals all submitting proposals, and how am I going to be able to stand out so that I'm going to be the winner? Because that's what it's ultimately about, is how can I figure out a way to make it so that I'm the winner? Otherwise, it's not worth bidding on, because then it's just a waste of time. So I look at it, and I look at it from an outside perspective and go, how does this project that I'm bidding on, how does it align with my portfolio? How can I make it clear that not only am I a good fit for this project, but the best fit for this project? So for example, my company, we've done a lot of high-end restaurant website design and branding projects. So if I'm bidding on, or I find one of those projects, those are ones I'm going to immediately grab onto and say, you know what, I can win this project because look at my portfolio, and I can frame that portfolio in a way that makes me a shoo-in. At the same time, there's a lot of projects that I'm not a good fit for, but I would like to win. So then it becomes a matter of, how can I frame my proposal in a way that speaks to my strong suits, even though I might not have direct relevant experience? How can I make it look like I should be a shoo-in? So it's all a matter of framing these proposals in a way that makes you so that you're a finalist, either because you should be a finalist or because you really want to be a finalist and you need to just craft your proposal in such a way. One of the questions we get is, how do I get started in bidding on RFPs? So let's say you're a web design, web development firm like myself. You either have a chance of having RFPs sent to you because people have found you and they know you, so they'll send you proposals or send you RFPs. The other way is there's services such as the one that I control called the RFP database, which we created for this specific purpose. And the third way is Google searches, you know, or finding the professional organization sites whereby someone would list an RFP, or even Craigslist, because that happens from time to time as well. The only trouble is that if you go to a site like Craigslist and you find an RFP up there, you know you're going to be in there with 100 or 200 other people. So it's different fields, so you have to be prepared for that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't win it. You just need to structure yourself in a way that makes it so that you will win it, but also so that you can identify and set yourself apart from the crowd, because that's what this is ultimately about. The way that I tell people, there's a number of ways to make sure that you are the person who wins an RFP. The first is that you need to make sure to listen to the RFP and read it and answer all their questions. They wrote the RFP, they thought about their questions. Answer all of their questions as clearly as possible. 2, don't include a lot of boilerplate. Include only the information that's necessary in order for you to win. Because if it's extra information, that's extra stuff that's getting in the way of people seeing your framing of why you should win. But at the same time, keep in mind the reader has to read 100 of these things that are each 20 to 50 pages. Don't waste their time. Set yourself apart by being clear, by making your proposal as easy as possible to read and digest, and easy as possible to navigate, so people can say, oh, well, I'm just going to look at the executive summary, and I'm going to look at their portfolio, and I'm going to look at their pricing. So make sure that there's a way for them to quickly and easily find those 3 pieces of data. You know, start with a great executive summary, 1 page, explain your whole thing, and assume that they won't read anything else except that, glance at your portfolio pictures, and then look at your pricing. And if you can win them on those 3 things, you know, that's only 5%, 10% of your proposal. You know, the other 90%, they'll get there. But they need to read those 3 things first before they're going to even want to read the rest of them. When we help organizations review proposals that they've received, because we've helped them through the process, you know, we'll get that many proposals. And what do? We give a quick glance. And you can only assume that the issuer is going to give a quick glance at first. They're going to want to narrow down the field as quickly as possible. And like I said, how can you stand apart? How can you get the important things in front of them as quickly as possible? And how can you make it as user-friendly as possible? So answering the questions, good organizational structure, good design of your proposal, and make sure the information is there and to be found easily without extra information in it. By the way, this is open for Q&A, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away, and hopefully I'll get to the questions as well. When we help an issuer, you know, one of the things that comes back is, well, if I see all these questions and people are able to do a Q&A period, how should I go about the Q&A period? The Q&A period in a proposal is where they basically say, okay, well, if you have any questions, submit them, and then we will get all the information, all the questions we receive from all the potential bidders. We'll answer all the questions and put them out and send them out to everyone. This is potentially your ability to make a good first impression by asking a smart question. Too often, people will ask really stupid questions in the Q&A period, and it sets them up because it basically says, you didn't bother to read the request for proposal that me, the issuer, spent a lot of time crafting. And then you'll get the same question 800 million times. And you just go, well, if they're not going to bother to read it, I know I'm going to get a proposal from them that didn't bother to read it either. And then that's what's going to be working with them is going to be like, is a whole bunch of people that are doing their thing without actually listening to what I'm saying. Make a good first impression with your Q&A period by asking good, relevant questions. We've actually had it a few times where we ask such good and relevant questions that the issuer stopped the project, realized that they didn't know enough to continue on with the selection period, and then hired us to do the specifications and definition phase of the project, which is actually a win without going through the process of trying to win the project. You know, we realized that they didn't have enough information, but they finally came to that same realization themselves. So you asking good, relevant questions can actually win you the project, or win you the project before the project. So make that good first impression. You know, and then, like I said, then the second first impression, if you will, is actually having a good, readable proposal. One that gets those and answers those questions right away as quickly and as easily as possible. That all being said, and this was a lot in a very quick time period, the site that we run is called the RFP database. So if you're interested, I encourage you to head over there. It's rfpdb.com. And on that site are, I believe, over 4,000 RFPs that are currently out for bid. So 4,000 RFPs figure on average, let's call it $500,000 a project, because some of them are for $10,000 and some of them for $2 million. That's a lot of business that is currently out for bid with timelines that are maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks to look for a competitive bid for these projects. There's a lot of churn in there. There's a lot of opportunity for everything from steel to website design and website development. I encourage people to get active and start looking at these proposals or these RFPs and get selective with the ones that you want to submit to. You know, find the ones that you feel comfortable submitting to. If you're a WordPress developer that has done a whole lot of city and town websites, there's going to be an RFP for you every few days because there's a lot of cities and towns that do that, and it will be a great opportunity for you to find new business. So I encourage you to do that as quickly as possible. Same thing with steel, same thing with anything else. You know, there's lots of organizations that put out these things. Get out there. You know, get out there and submit these proposals. Figure out what wins for you and what doesn't win for you, because some will have a higher chance of winning and some won't. Keep on restructuring your proposal. You know, keep on working on it and figure out, okay, well, how much is too much boilerplate, how much is too little boilerplate? How much of this is applicable from project to project and that I can carry over from project to project so I'm not starting from scratch every time? Because honestly, a lot of these have very quick timelines. At the same time, don't use it too much and make sure that you do a copy and paste and a proofread, because honestly, we've seen quite a few proposals that have come in where the issuing organization for the RFP was never changed. So the person was submitting a proposal to the wrong person. That all being said, figure out what works for you. You know, like I said, be selective in the RFPs. Say, okay, you know what? My sweet spot seems to be projects in this range. I'm not really having good luck on the state level, but the small municipal government level is working for me. The nonprofits are really working for me. You know, figure out what it is that niche that you can nail in RFPs. Because, be honest, you really need to come to RFPs with a niche. With this is, like I said in the beginning, this is how I can excel at this project. This is why this type of project, your specific project, is a perfect fit for me. So again, if you have any more questions, jump on in. Doesn't seem like there's any questions, but I will take questions afterwards, and hopefully this will encourage you to get out there and start submitting. So good luck, and maybe I'll do this again. You can check out our website, confluentforms.com. We have a whole section in our blog on tips and tricks for requests for proposals and RFPs. And again, the other site is RFP database, rfpdb.com. And there are lots and lots of projects out there every day. So give it a shot. Thank you for tuning in, and take care.